Hi, welcome back, and my name is Maple, and welcome to my channel. I'm a little behind when it comes to these reading wrap-ups, so I think to catch up, I'm just going to make a video on all the books that I read in the second quarter of the year. So that is April, May, and June, and then I'll shortly after this we'll do a third quarter wrap-up. So hopefully I can get it all done and you're not waiting like 3 months for the next video. But hey man, life's busy. This is a hobby, so I'll post whenever I want. Anyways, so the first book in the second quarter is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli? I was really anticipating this book. I had read the first one and I had a really good time reading it, so I was just like, I need this. Luckily I have a friend that works for a book warehouse, so she was able to send this over to me for free, so thanks, Michelle. And I also devoured this almost as fast as the first one. But I'll go over Heartless Hunter because I don't want to give out spoilers for the first book. Basically, this is a world of witches where they are being hunted by the current government. And the current government is essentially trying to eradicate every witch from this country. Because in the past, they were ruled by these 3 witch sisters who basically terrorized the population, especially those that didn't have magic. So in this world, our main girl is trying to smuggle all of these witches out of the current country that we're in into a neighboring country who is a little bit more sympathetic towards witches. And so a romance kind of blossoms between the #1 witch hunter guy and our main witch smuggler, who is also a witch. And one of the best things I love about this book is the fact that the magic system is like blood magic, which means you require blood in order to cast any sort of spells. And anytime you cast a spell, it leaves a scar. So it's really easy to tell when someone's a witch. But basically we have these 2 characters playing cat and mouse with each other and like also trying to like suss the other person out, and eventually they fall in love. So my thoughts on the book is that the witches are very cool. The magic system is very interesting, and I love a magic system where there's a cost to using magic. The first book, I felt like we didn't really get to see that much magic, which kind of made sense because our main girl is trying to avoid getting these scars so that if she is caught, she has plausible deniability. However, in the second one, we do get to see more blood magic, and our main girl does get to use like bigger spells, but I wanted more. I needed to see more of what like a person can do with this magic. I also thought like the storyline was very predictable. I mean, like you kind of knew where it was heading, and yeah, everything happened to a T. But I will say Kristen does a really good job of making you feel the pain. I just remember reading that scene where they were in a boat and they like kind of wanted to be together but can't because they don't like fully trust each other, and I felt like my heart was just like ripped open the entire time. So it was fun. I will give the second book a 3.75 stars out of 5. I think the first one I gave a 4 stars to, so not as good, but overall still enjoyable. So the second book that I read in the second quarter of the year is The Road of Bones by Demi, which honestly is kind of funny because the main character from Rebel Witch, her name is Rune Winters. So seeing like the real author's name as Winters, it threw me off a little bit at first. But yeah, Road of Bones probably has one of the cooler worlds I've seen / read before. It's based off of Norse mythology, but in terms of magic, it feels very Game of Thrones, where most people know that there is magic, but a lot of people probably haven't encountered it, or at least not knowingly. Currently there's no dragons, but there are mythical creatures like vampire deer and dire wolves. So it's very cool, it's very interesting. I've never read a book in this setting, in this like type of mythology before, so I was very excited. Basically, we follow a girl named Scylla who is being hunted by the queen, and she doesn't know why, but she knows that her father is holding something from her, keeping a secret. So he's instructed her to go up to this northern village where he knows a person that could kind of take her in and keep her safe. And unfortunately, as they were going up to the north, these men kill Scylla's father. This happens really quickly, so this isn't a spoiler or anything. Kill Scylla's father, and now she has to make her way up north all by herself. So because the road up north is so treacherous, especially for being a single woman, she basically hitches a ride with this group who turns out to be this notorious band of mercenaries and manages to convince them to let her tag along. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people have raved about this book, but I felt a little disappointed by it. It was very hyped, and I think that the world is so cool, but there was something about it that I just didn't connect with. The mystery of it all was good, a little predictable, but I thought that it did have some like satisfying unveiling. I'm starting to realize that I don't like romance first, fantasy second type books. I like it when the romance is a subplot to the fantasy elements. And I don't know, I didn't like the main guy. I feel like you kinda, I had vibes, okay? I had vibes, and the vibes weren't vibing. So, as much as I really wanted to love this book, I only gave it a 3 stars. So the third book I read this quarter, is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zoulfa Katouh. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this. I love this book so much. I feel like this book changed my perspective in a lot of things. And I highly, highly, highly recommend everyone and anyone to read this book because it's so well done. But basically we follow Salma, who is a pharmacy student in Syria when the civil war broke out. And because all the doctors has either passed on or left, basically she had to step up and essentially be a surgeon in her local hospital. Her mother passed away a few years ago from a bombing. Her father and brother were taken captive and were captured by the government during a protest that they attended. And she's currently living with her sister-in-law, so her older brother's wife, who is currently pregnant. So she's trying to find a way to get her and her sister-in-law out of the country, because obviously bringing a child in this like war-torn area and very dangerous is not the ideal place to raise a child. And she also has PTSD, which manifests into this character, into this person named Quaff that kind of torments her and pushes her to leave Syria, essentially. But Salma loves her home and wants to help fight for her country, but she knows that she really can't stay. And just as she's about to leave, she meets the love of her life, who wants to stay and record YouTube videos to post online so that he can bring awareness to the current issues. It is a beautifully written, heartbreaking story, and it really sunk its teeth into me. I think with all that's been going on in the world, this is the book that sort of just is rent-free in my mind, and I feel like it has changed my perspective in terms of like how terrifying wars truly is, you know? When you hear about these things in the news, it feels so, you feel so detached, you feel so far away from it. But when I had to sit here and read this book for like 10 to 15 hours, you really kind of, you get immersed in the world, and that fear of like whether you're gonna be able to come back home from work every morning is like, it's terrifying, it's heartbreaking, it's so scary. And it's also very hopeful in that, you know, even in a world where everything is just wrong, you can find people to love and kind of pull through for them. So I was in tears almost the entire time reading it, and I can't even put into words how grateful I am to have come across this book, because that extra set of perspectives, I think I would have never in my life, as far like as I can tell, like I would have gone through my entire life without ever experiencing terror like this. And I'm glad I was able to at least sit with it in a safe space to truly understand like how horrible these events are and these conflicts are. So yeah, highly recommend everyone read this book. I want this book to be like a reading requirement in school, because it's like, it's so good. So the next book that I read, the fourth book, is The Safekeep by Yael Vander Wouden, I believe. I borrowed this book from the library, so I don't have a copy. But I read this book right before I went to Amsterdam, thinking that maybe it would like kind of prepare me for the trip. It's not a tourist book, okay? It's a very slice of life in the country, never experienced anything that happened in this book. But it is a story of these two women that are forced to live together in the Dutch countryside post-World War II. It's sort of like a grumpy sunshine dynamic where we have Isabel, who is grumpy, bitter, and sort of uptight. And then we have Eve, who is a bit more loose, fun, and loud. The way I pictured her more like a Marilyn Monroe type. Basically, these two women are like the complete opposite of each other, and they were kind of constantly in friction. And slowly over time, Isabel notices that certain items were starting to go missing in her house while Eve is currently there, and she starts to get suspicious of Eve. Sorry, her name is Eva. I don't know why I kept saying Eve. So she starts to grow suspicious of Eve, and slowly over time, as she's investigating these things that have gone missing, little mysteries about the house that Isabel has called home since as long as she can remember starts to unravel. So yeah, I think that this book was very beautifully written. It won awards, and I can tell that it did, because it was very descriptive, very atmospheric. You felt the tension, you felt the annoyance, the frustration of both women. You really felt like you were in her mind and experiencing this intruder in your home, and you slowly warming up to this woman. Yeah, this book taught me a little bit about history that I didn't really know about up until, it's a bit of a spoiler, so I'm not going to really talk about it that much. But yeah, this was definitely one of the better books that I've read this year. And honestly, it was a solid 4 stars for me. Okay, so the 5th book that I read in this quarter is Paladin's Grace. I've been sleeping on this book. I've been wanting to read it for a long time, but I've just been like, I'm gonna save it for a rainy day. And it definitely delivered. It was so funny. Basically, we follow Stephen with a PH, who is a paladin, and his god died. After a few years, him, along with only a handful of paladins, is now serving the Church of the Rat God. And one day, while he was acting as a bodyguard to one of the church's priests, he runs into a woman named Grace who was sort of in need of help. She was being chased by members of a different church called the Motherhood, which is sort of a god that no one likes. And so he helps her get away from these creeps by essentially pretending to be romantically tied in the alley together. Immediately, these two kind of hit it off. They get immediate chemistry, but like they don't really see each other very often, and they weren't able to get each other's names after this first meeting. Luckily for them, they run into each other again, and they sort of get into other shenanigans and help each other get out of them. Yeah, honestly, so funny. I love how quirky the characters are, and I honestly can't wait to read more of these books. I was told that I should read them kind of separately and not read them back to back, because apparently they're very like similar to each other. So I can't believe I've slept on Kingfisher for this long, because this was like one of my favorites this year. It kind of makes me want to play as Steven in a D&D campaign. Like, I think he's like the perfect mix of like big butch dude, but also soft and knits socks. The writing is so witty. But yeah, basically I felt like I was in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and I kind of want to run this as a campaign now that I think about it. But yeah, I did, however, read this during like a very busy travel time. So I don't know, for some reason I wasn't like pulled, or like I you know when like a book just grabs you and you have to keep reading? I didn't get that with this book. This book was very much like I pick it up, I read a few pages, and I put it down. But I did really enjoy it, and it was really fun. So I think overall I give it a 4.5 stars, so almost a perfect 5. It's just, I feel like those 5-star reads are like the reads where it sucks you in and you just cannot let go. So maybe the other Paladin books will kind of fill that need. Okay, so for the 5th book, I read Silver Elite by Dani Francis. Kind of a bummer, honestly. The story takes place in like a dystopian setting where there are people that have powers, and then there are people that don't. The people in the world that have powers are called mods or modifieds, and they sort of gain the special ability through some mutation that occurred when a toxic was released hundreds of years ago during a war. And the world is currently ran by people without powers, and kind of similar to Rebel Witch, where like they're trying to eradicate and kill off all the people with special powers, because the previous reign of these modifieds were so cruel that they now have to reverse that and be cruel back. So in the story, we are in the point of view of Ren, who is a modified orphan. She was raised by her Uncle Jim, who is supposedly this like mod rebel dude. So Ren finds herself in a situation where she has to save a boy's life who's being attacked by these like mutated coyotes. The way I imagine them is like dire wolves, but coyotes. And basically she makes this like impossible shot where she was able to kill the coyote without harming the child at all. And this basically puts her in the current government's radar to be recruited to be a part of the Silver Elite. Unfortunately, as they were digging through this, they realized that, hey, this Uncle Jim is actually this old modified operative, and they arrest him. He gets put into firing squad, and during his execution, she uses her abilities to try and save him, but she fails. She also gets taken in for questioning because people suspected that she might have incited the firing squad. So in this world, inciting basically is mind control. So they're suspicious of her. They think that she might have powers, but they couldn't interrogate her enough to get her to like spill. And even though they were suspicious of her, they instead ask her to join the Silver Elite as a punishment. I don't know. It's really weird. The premise does not make any sense to me. And the more that I think about it, the more space that I have between now and when I first read the book, the more nonsense it makes. I mean, the less sense it makes. Sorry. Like, as a commander of the Silver Elite, why would you ask someone who you suspect to be a modified to join your team? And like, you know that they're not going to take it seriously. You know that they don't want to be there. So like, why would you put them there? It makes no sense. I feel like this person is supposed to be this like smart elite commander, but you make the dumbest freaking choice and essentially let a possible mole into your elite team. I don't know, kind of weird. The storyline is also very predictable, and the world doesn't really offer any sort of commentary in terms of like the dystopian setting. It really just felt like a romance with a dystopian skin. Also, some of these commanders that lead the Silver Block feel a little too young. Like, I feel like they're all in their early 20s, and I'm like, I mean, sure, it's old enough, but like, would other 20-year-olds be capable of forcing other 20-year-olds to fall in line? I don't know, dude. I feel like you need somebody a little bit older. But yeah, I feel like while I was reading it, I had a good time. Like, it was fun, but the more time you spend actually thinking through the plot, you're like, none of this makes any sense. So it ended up being a 2-star for me. Okay, and then after Silver Elite, I read this monster of mine, which, I have the Fairy Loot edition. So she's very pretty. Alternate covers with like all the cool things. But yeah, this also had a very interesting world, kind of similar to the Road of Bones. It's not similar, but like it's similar in terms of like how unique I felt like it was. And so the setting is ancient Rome with magic, and we're focused more on like the judiciary systems. We're basically, I'm gonna call them judges, and like regular judges, and then like head judge people. So basically we have judges in this world that have special abilities that let them detect lies or pull truths from people, and also project the images of their thoughts into the real world. So our main girl was supposed to be a healer, but when she was younger, she went to the southern city of Edessa, where she was supposed to go to school with her friend who was training to be a judge. And while she was there, she gets kidnapped and thrown off of a tower, but somehow she survives. Because there is healing magic in this world, they were able to piece her together. So she survived, but her hands were so mangled that she couldn't practice healing magic, because healing magic in this world requires a lot of precision, a lot of like finesse, and like hand-eye coordination, mobility. I feel like there's a word for this, but it's not coming to me. So she becomes a legend known as the Sidran Tower Girl. So she eventually goes back north to her home, but now she's bent on revenge. She wants to bring the people that threw her off to justice. And she has magical abilities, so she is trying to save up money so she could go to school to become a judge like her friend. A few years pass and she realizes that, hey, that requirement of like needing a whole bunch of money to become a judge is no longer required, due to the fact that a lot of these judges are just dying right after they graduate. So there's like a little bit of a mystery going on around like the school and the system. And basically you venture off into the city as she becomes a judge, and she works for this like, kind of like your dark daddy head judge guy. And they're sort of like uncovering the mysteries of these deaths essentially. And she's also, while she's there, she's also trying to find the killer, who she actually thinks is Judge Daddy guy that she works for. So yeah, it's very cool. It's a little confusing. There's a lot of threads, but I do feel like it does eventually come together. And I feel like it was meant to be confusing because it's supposed to be like mysterious and weird. But I really like the magic system. I want more of this book, because I want to see more healers. Like as a healer, you need precision, because you need to be able to mend people's like bones and muscles and stitch them together without accidentally like cutting off and tearing off like other, like, you know, other important parts of your body. So I'm just like, dang, healers in this world, so powerful. But yeah, the magic, super cool. The judicial hierarchy was also very cool. I did find that the big evil guy was a little predictable. Like, I knew right away. But yeah, I remember when I first read this, going from Silver Elite to this monster of mine was like night and day, because this like Silver Elite was written very direct, like it's very easy to read, whereas like this monster of mine is also very easy to read, but it's a lot more, it's written so beautifully. The prose is so good, and I want to read more books by this author because like I just love the way that she writes. So yeah, I think I gave this a 4 stars. Okay, now I'm gonna fucking wing it. So let's see if I'm good at summarizing my thoughts. My 7th book of this quarter is The Night and the Moth, which is also a Fairy Loot edition. So very pretty. Honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting like, this is straight up just Aurora. And this is like emo Timothy Chalamet. So, The Night and the Moth, which is written by Rachel Gillig. I devoured her duology, crap, what was it called? One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns last year. Like, I could not put those 2 books down. This book wasn't quite up to par with those 2 books, but I still really enjoyed it. Basically, we follow a diviner, our main girl. Her name is Six because there's 6 diviners and she's the 6th one. So her and her diviners lives in this cathedral where there is a magical spring that has this like water that they use to divine with. These diviners will lay down in this magical spring and they will be pushed down and drowned. And while they're drowning in this magical water, they get visions of these omens. And then based off of what they dream about these omens, it could all either mean a good thing or a bad thing. One day, the young king, who's fairly new, comes and he's coming in to get a reading from one of the diviners. Now with them is this knight who is kind of rude and mean, and sort of has this interaction with our main girl Six that just rubs her the wrong way. He kind of like calls her out for like not having seen the world. And so one day she comes across him and realizes that he's stolen a jug of spring water, because the spring water is actually very fragrant. It has like a sweet, like an overly sweet scent that smells of rot. So she was able to smell this and realize that, hey, they're trying to steal spring water. And because this knight had been nagging at her saying that she hasn't seen the world, she strikes a deal with him and says, hey, if you take me and the diviners out to the town for a night of fun, I won't tell the abbess, which is the head of church lady, that you stole this jug of spring water. And so he strikes a deal, they go out, and when they come back, some of the diviners start to go missing. And she's trying to uncover what's happening, and has now asked the knight and the king for help finding out what has happened to her sisters. Sorry, that was a very long-winded. I didn't write notes for this, so this is all in my brain. This book was a lot of fun. This book has one of my favorite characters that I've come across this year so far. It's Bartholomew. There is this like little gargoyle it's like an animated gargoyle that can fly and has sort of the personality of a 12-year-old, but he's also very strong and beefy. And it inspired one of my Daggerheart characters that I'm playing right now. It's so charming and it's so fun. This book was also very predictable. I don't know if I'm just like reading so many books now that like everything is just becoming predictable, but I feel like that's not really the case. I feel like it's okay if a book is predictable. I just feel like it needs to be done well. And I felt that in One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. But The Knight and the Moth, I don't know. There was something about it that was missing for me. I can't really figure out what it is. Maybe it did leave off in a pretty large cliffhanger, so maybe in a second book that thing that's missing will click, but I don't know. I was a little disappointed that I didn't want to devour this book like I did One Dark Window. So yeah, I think overall I did give it a 4 stars. Okay, last but not least, I read The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. This is a very cozy book, so I kind of wish I read this in the spring because it's very cottagecore, picking flowers type vibes, and it's very cozy. So we follow Marigold, who is an aristocrat, but she has never really felt like she belonged in that world. She is a bit more wild compared to her siblings. And one day her grandmother comes to visit and tells her, hey, actually, the reason why you're so wild is because you're a witch. And you have these instincts that are just built into you. Her mom was very against her going because there is an inherent danger in becoming a honey witch. Basically, there is this ash witch that is hunting her line of honey witches down. And her mom didn't want her to basically put herself in danger. However, Marigold is like, I don't belong here. I feel like I'm missing a part of me. So she goes with her grandmother to learn to be a honey witch. And for a while, she stays safe. Her grandmother teaches her to ward the town, how to protect them, how to brew potions for the people that might need it, and essentially just like take care of this little village that she's responsible for. However, there's still this like lingering threat of this ash witch who might come in and basically try and kill her. Yeah, honestly, it's fairly... I mean, it's not low stakes. There's some real threats in this book, but it honestly felt very, very cozy. Like you just sat there and you watched this woman make lavender honey, make love potions, like have picnics with her friends, all the while trying, like, slowly she's like uncovering the mysteries behind the Ash Witch and like how she can protect the people. It's good vibes. I really enjoyed this book. I wish I'd read it a little sooner. I wish I read this in the middle of summer, and I wish I had read it in the springtime because it would have been perfect. But yeah, to be honest, I don't remember too much that happened. I know that there was a curse. It's a sapphic romance, which also made it a little bit predictable, but I had a good time. There's not much to it really. It's a very like cut and dry book. Like you have a plot, you ride along as you read it, and it was a fun ride. So I think I gave it a 3.5 stars. Those are the books that I read in April, May, and June. I will be making a video in like 2 weeks of all the books that I read in this quarter because I'm so behind. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you sooner than 3 months. Bye!